Hello, IWF sisters, and welcome to another conversation of Behind Her Bio, where I will be asking questions that uncover the personal and unique stories of the women of IWF Chicago. As always, asking the same set of questions that bring out these distinct, incredible narratives that highlight our shared journeys and common ground, helping us discover the richness of our humanity, the sameness of our humanity as women, and how this connects us, empowers us, and creates powerful collective experiences for us. And today we have Amy Dordek Delinsky, IWF sister. She is a partner with Lucas James Talent Partners, an on-demand recruiting firm. She has over 30 years of experience as a leader, human capital expert, and entrepreneur. Amy has helped scale numerous professional service businesses, including several that were private equity backed. She is a thought leader in recruiting, career coaching, sales effectiveness, and entrepreneurship. And Amy has been involved in 5 startups over her career, either as a co-founder or in leadership roles. She also has nonprofit board experience, serving on the board of the International Women's Forum Chicago and 2 terms as board president of Meals on Wheels Chicago. She also serves as an advisory board member to a woman-owned startup. Amy also helped her husband, Steve Delinsky, launch a pizza tour company 7 years ago, Pizza City Tours, as well as Pizza City Fest, a pizza festival business. They've done festivals in Chicago, Nashville. Developing and mentoring future women entrepreneurs and business leaders is one of Amy's passions. Hello, Amy. That is quite a bio, and I'm excited to now get behind your bio and asking you some questions that I know is going to just be an incredible, engaging, and dynamic conversation. So, welcome.
Thank you.
So, I'm going to jump right in, and I'm going to jump right in with my icebreaker that I've been asking everyone. Can you tell me what is the weirdest item that you keep by your bed?
I didn't have a good answer for this one, Kalila. I was like, I have my iPhone charger and my watch charger and maybe some things to help me go to sleep easier. I'll just leave it at
Okay.
that.
Undisclosed items that help you go to sleep easier. Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. Well, remember, I was in the cannabis industry.
Enough said. All right. I think that might resonate with some of our IWF sisters listening as well, or may give them ideas as they're thinking about how they can leverage that for help to go to sleep as well.
Sure, I can always be a resource.
I love it. So we think of you, Amy, as an everyday hero. And this is a woman who shows up and champions those around her without hesitation or fear of competition. And a lot of times we place limits on how we define the heroes in our lives. So, who are the heroes you encounter every day, and how are you inspired by them?
You know, in a way, this was very easy for me, this answer,
Mhm.
because my family is the first thing that comes to mind. I'm very, very lucky. I have 2 incredible parents. They are still active and with it and live in the Chicago suburbs at 84 years old. And they really worked hard to give us an incredible, life and lots of confidence and support. We didn't have everything, but we felt like we did. They're smart and funny, and they were really role models of a great marriage and a great partnership relationship. They still make each other laugh all the time, and they really did whatever they could to make my sister, my brother, and I as good of people as we could, as well as inspire us to be successful professionally and personally in our relationships and in the work that we do. And then the other person who comes to mind, who is an IWF member, is Marilyn Listener. She was
Mm.
actually one of the first professional women I'd met in, like, high school, college. She was my mom's friend, but she worked for a living. Actually, she has a fun background. She actually sold like pants that were imported from Paris. And then she sort of switched to a bunch of different things and got into commercial real estate and was my first boss. And
Oh my God,
as
you know
many
that.
people in IWF know, she's also the person who introduced me to my husband.
I didn't know that.
And yes, and she really gave very pragmatic advice to a very young, I was like 22 years old when I started working for her. And sometimes I hear her voice in my head as a salesperson. I mean, she was the first woman like I knew that was in sales and commercial real estate. And some of the things she said were sort of a combination of as a strong, aggressive business person as well as a Jewish mother on top of it.
That's great. That so as I'm listening to you, and the things that inspire you and the values that I know from you personally that you uphold is just role modeling what it means to be a partner and finding everything, I guess those intangibles and having everything with that and not just everything as far as materialistic things, going back to when you were speaking to your parents and that laughter. I love that, thinking about your parents now at 84 years old and still being able to make each other laugh and instilling values in you that helped you personally and professionally. And then Marilyn comes in with her blend, it sounds like, of how she impacted you personally and professionally,
Yeah.
how you stand today.
Yeah, I was very lucky. A lot of women, I mean, I'm in my 50s, didn't maybe have female business mentors, and I did have one. My first boss
Mhm.
was a woman. I've had many amazing, great male bosses. I'm very fortunate. But seeing a woman in action, setting a tone, seeing how she handles herself in meetings,
Yeah.
taking charge, but also being a very thoughtful she represented tenants, still somewhat to this day does, and thinking about their best interests. It was a very good lesson.
So you had some great role models and almost a holistic spectrum of what has been role modeled for you that you're able to bring with you today.
I did.
And how you show up as a mentor. Because I know without hesitation, we talk about, someone who shows up and champions those around her. You definitely model a lot of that when I think about the conversations that we've had one on one. So I appreciate you for that.
My pleasure. I try to be a good role model. It's not easy these days, and people need more of them.
They do. They do. And it's almost like we're having to model in so many different situations that we never thought we would have to.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you could thank one person from your past, who would it be and why?
So I, again, have very unique family situation, family members.
Hmm.
And when I thought about this question, I decided that the person that I would like to thank would be my grandfather. So my mother's father, Louis Fisher, is someone who I really wish I could sit down with today and talk over coffee. So many things that are happening in the world are things that he talked about when I was very young,
Hmm.
that could or would happen. My grandfather, I was very close to him, and he was incredibly bright, but very underemployed. He was really, truly brilliant, but his passion was for the Socialist Labor Party. And in 1972, he ran for president of the United States for the Socialist Labor Party.
Your
He got
grandfather?
my grandfather, Louis Fisher. My sister actually donated all of his papers to the University of North Carolina, where she went to college, because they were quite interested in what he did in his time. And he ran, obviously, for a small party, but he got like 55,000 votes. And I remember in 1972, I was like in second grade or something,
Hmm.
that I voted for him as president, and I was obviously the only child that did that. And he just talked about the economy and sustainability and the environment. I mean, that was in the 70s.
Hmm.
It would all be so relevant today. And it's funny because my sister and I were very young, and we would go to what's called SLP events, Socialist Labor Party events, with my parents. And they, back in the day, were eating like vegetarian dinners. And I remember thinking, what in the world is this meatloaf that I'm eating? And it was nut loaf. Like, they were very ahead of their time, and I would
Truly.
really think about, I guess I wish I could ask him about today and
Hmm.
what's happening today. And he was really an anti-capitalist, so he would be quite disappointed in me that I'm like in sales and very motivated by money, because he was so not motivated by money. He was motivated by causes. But it
Hmm.
would be an incredibly interesting conversation to have if I could, to have one with him today, given the geopolitical environment and what's happening with the Jewish community that I'm a part of. And my sister and I both say, like, knowing him better, my brother's much younger, like he was very inspiring to us, and I'm sure she feels the same way. All of us probably in my family do. Is like, what would he be saying about today, and what advice would he be giving us?
Yeah. What do you think he would say about today?
Well, he would be talking to me about capitalism is evil and, being wrapped up in it. But he would also not be surprised about what's happening, in the conflicts in the world geopolitically. He would have probably predicted many of them if we had talked about it more.
Wow. I would
But he
love
would be
to.
telling me to keep calm and carry on, probably too.
Was that a catchphrase for him? Keep calm
No,
and
but he was like very like keep going and stay with it and
Mhm.
stick to your your beliefs. And I mean, he was never afraid of being anti-establishment.
That's powerful. And then I love that you said too that he was motivated by causes. I know when I do um, a lot of my work, it's starting with that personal why and how that moves you. And so I know you say you're motivated by money, but I know you and I know you have
I'm motivated by
personal
a
why
lot of
in there.
things.
Yes.
Yes, of course. Because the work that I do, I feel like helps people. I mean, I'm a
Yes,
recruiter and I help companies find great people and I help people find jobs. And I think he'd be very proud of that part of what I do.
absolutely. Absolutely. Um, how did you perceive freedom as a child? And then how do you define or seek freedom now?
This was a hard question because I guess I see freedom as like being myself. I mean, I was always my own person and I always looked younger and I was smaller. I'm a small woman. And so later into adulthood, I was like kind of looked at as like a young girl, even though I was an adult. And
Hmm.
I somehow found my voice to speak up and fight for myself. I always felt the need to be taken seriously. I was also very entrepreneurial from a young age, and I started making money in seventh grade. I had my own day camp in my backyard, and I charged parents for the kids to come and be
Oh,
amused
okay.
by us during the day. And I mean, I now realize I was just babysitting, but
Nice.
I created all kinds of
You
activities and
branded it as a day camp, right?
I
That's
did. I
yeah.
branded it as a day camp. And I mean, again, I was very motivated by, both cause and financial freedom. Like I knew that independence was created by women. I don't know how I learned this, but by women making their own money and being able to stand on their own 2 feet. And I often tell young women who come to me who have very idealistic ideas of what a career could be.
Mhm.
I just had this happen this week. Somebody called to interview me because she wants to be a food tour guide. And I was like, that is great, except that's not a job. And there's no way to sustain yourself financially with a job like that. And I just feel very motivated to be real with people
Yeah,
about, you know, pursuing something that they're passionate about, but also being able to make a living by it.
you have to.
So
Yeah.
to me, growing up in the North Shore as a kid, not having a ton, I decided that I also needed to be financially stable and find something that could sustain me and or my family.
So when you think about being a child and in freedom, did it look like that? Did you feel like you had some level of independence and you were looking to carry that independence with you into
Very
adult?
much.
Mhm.
Yeah, very much. I knew that in order to sustain, a life, you have to find something that you're good at that you like that can also be financially, rewarding and lucrative enough to sustain, buying a home or whatever. I don't know how that hit me so young, but it really did.
Yeah.
Being surrounded by so many haves and maybe feeling like a have not.
That does have an impact. I think about how I grew up. It does, when you have sometimes feel a feeling of lack, there's that drive to fill those gaps. Absolutely. Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wasn't ashamed by that, like I had to figure out how could I attain the things that I want and it was through, hard work,
Through hard work, starting with the day camp. How old were you when
starting with
you
the
had
day
the day
camp.
camp?
So I was in seventh grade. So I talked another seventh grade guy actually into doing this with me so that I wouldn't be taking care of the kids alone. But yeah, I think I did it 2 years in a row. People literally paid me to just watch their kids in mass.
That's great. Do you remember your largest group of children? How many you had?
I'm sure it was like a dozen because I think one family brought 3 kids. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. Um, what's a personal passion, Amy, or interest that drives you, or a story from your life that has shaped you, but is rarely mentioned in your personal narrative?
So when I was in grammar school, I was bullied. And I don't even remember the reason behind it. I just remember the feeling.
Mm.
Apparently, I was like not cool or small or skinny or maybe also too good. Like I was very much of a person like I stuck by doing things maybe the right way or what I thought was the right way and following the rules. And this was like not cool to the crowd. And I think at that point, I can't remember what grades it was, maybe fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth grade, something like that. And I had like one real true friend, and she ended up moving away.
Mm.
And so that experience really stuck with me because I didn't really care about being in the in crowd. And I didn't really care that these bullies didn't like me. For some reason, I just felt emboldened to be myself and to stand up for myself. And I actually had another situation in high school where a bunch of kids in my crowd ended up drinking and getting super drunk, like at a school function. And I was the only one who did not. And, people were really annoyed with me and angry with me and felt like that I betrayed them because I like wasn't with the crowd.
Wow.
And again, I really didn't care. So I don't know, those two things um, gave me some inner strength and confidence to be my own person and to experience, I don't know, feelings of like being free from, I don't know, peer pressure from an early age. It's like become my sort of superpower, my belief in myself.
That's incredible. And I think that's a powerful thing. If to take time and think about too, what was it that allowed you to feel so free? Because when young people are bullied, that can go a completely different way in how they show up and how they see themselves, and what their mental health is. But you were able to create boundaries and barriers that allowed you to still stand in who you are, which is something that you carry with you today. And maybe part of that was
It's
moved.
my family.
I was
It's
going
my
to
fam-
say, I'm
it's my
thinking about
family.
what you've said about your family. So,
Yeah, I have two amazing parents. My parents had lots of friends. I have a sister and a brother. My sister's 2.5 years younger than me, but she's an extraordinary person. I'm glad I didn't have to follow her. I'm glad she followed me. She got a major scholarship to college. She was maybe the top of her class. But you know what? She was like my supporter too. She's the same way today, as is my brother. We're all sort of similar in this belief in ourselves and feeling good about who we are and what we can do.
yeah, that's those are all great things. And just thinking about, again, you being emboldened at a young age, an entrepreneur at a young age, and how that's carried through with how you stand today. And our core around us at that time is incredibly important. It makes me think of my daughter, who didn't have a lot of friends when she started middle school, and she kept saying, I'm alone, but I'm not lonely. I come home to a great family.
Mm,
I mean, she really, I come home to my family, I'm fine. So that
right.
molded her and empowered her and gave her her confidence. So
It's really important. I try to do the same for my children.
yeah, absolutely. I love this. Okay, so and I just going back to something we would never think. I don't think anybody would ever think that you were ever bullied either in how you carry yourself. So
Right. But
that's
it
that.
happens. Thank God it happened before social media. I don't know what that would have been like. It would have been quite
Yeah,
different, right? It was
absolutely.
just good old fashioned mean girls.
Good old fashioned mean girls. Yes. Can you recount a time when your routine or habits were disrupted in a way that led you to discover a new aspect of yourself? And what was that new aspect?
So I spent some time not too long ago in the cannabis industry. And it was the first time in my career that I was not well respected for what I brought to the table.
Mm.
And it made me realize something. Like I always think I can make it anywhere and I can do anything that I set my mind to. And that was a place where I decided I couldn't. And I also realized that they were not my tribe. Like that literally was what I said to my now partner, Tim at Lucas James Talent Partners. He's like, why do you want to leave, that industry and business? You're a senior executive there. And I'm like, they're not my tribe. Um, and I'm like, no matter how good I am, they're never going to think that I can contribute or matter in the way that I should. And so I realized that I had to get back to my tribe of people, professional services, where I could be, myself, where I could contribute, where I could do great work and feel like more respected. And this experience is not unusual in maybe in the cannabis industry, because it's such an unusual, unregulated, very male dominated business. But it really kind of knocked my confidence for the first time in a long time. And I realized that it wasn't about me. So that really, I got my groove back after I left that industry and that company.
It's a lot there that you shared, starting with the last thing around you recognize that it's not about you. And not a lot of people are able to discern that when their confidence is shaken. They do internally
Mm-hmm.
feel like it's not them, especially women. When I think about women in the workplace and staying in a place that is not for them. And instead of saying, let me go to where there's a place for me, they start to try to figure out what's wrong with them so they can assimilate to this culture that's just not.
Yeah, it's easy to do. It's easy to do. I mean, I did it, and luckily I have a really incredible professional and personal network to rely on that made me realize this was not about me. It's time
Mm-hmm.
to go. But it disrupted my confidence. It disrupted my career in some ways. I took a chance in the industry. I'm very used to taking risks. A lot of women aren't comfortable with that. Sometimes they pay off greatly. Other times you do have to be aware that when you take risks, they don't always work out. So,
Right.
um, but I mean, I'm not sure I would say I'm glad I did it. I feel like people say, "Oh, you learned so much." I'm like, I'm done learning. Like, I'm good on the learning now.
I
I don't need
definitely
any more of that.
get that. Yes, yes. At this point, I want to just take all my lessons and thrive from them, right?
Exactly.
I get
Exactly.
that. Yes. I think that's another just surprise possibly for people listening that you were in a situation where you felt your confidence shaken because again too and why I love having these conversations is because we do initially connect because of our titles and the work that we do and how we're standing in the room. But to be able to get to these other layers of, yes, I've had moments where I did not feel confident. I was not as respected as I would be. And I just love that you own that and went to where you would be respected versus seeing that as a failure on you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's easy to look and blame yourself, but um, I did take a chance, and that chance, that risk didn't result in what I was looking for out of it. And I knew sometimes you got to know what's that song? You know when to fold them.
Know when to hold them, know when to
Whatever.
hold
Yeah,
them. Yeah.
no, yeah, exactly. Know when to hold them, know when to fold them.
What do you feel like you learned from that experience though? Like you knew was the biggest lesson for you understanding that there's a right culture for you versus just being able, I don't know if I'm framing it the right way, but sometimes we feel like if we can do something, we should stick to it, even if the culture is not right. So was,
Yeah, there's not much I could have done.
yeah.
What I learned is I could have tried and tried and tried in that role, and nothing would have ever changed.
Mm-hmm.
Not the outcomes, not my pay, not like the upside, like it was never going to happen. And I think sometimes women, like they just, oh, I can just keep at this. Like I talk to so many women in my role because I do a lot of career development. Obviously we do recruiting and help people find roles. So as part of that, sometimes people reach out for career advice, and I'm like, keeping your head down and just like paying attention to your day job and just thinking that somehow, some way you're going to work harder and get through it's not a great strategy a lot of the time.
Love
You
hearing.
got to pick your head up and think about what's good for you. Is this place good for you? Are these people good for you? If not, you got to go.
Yes. Yes. It is not as much as we've been socialized about just giving hard work. Mm-hmm.
No, because a lot of times um, your loyalty and hard work are not really recognized, respected, and it doesn't make it sometimes any easier for you to not be on the chopping block when the cost cutting comes.
Yes. Yes. Ugh.
It's about relationships sometimes.
It is so much about relationships. And again, understanding, is this a place where I'm going to have the relationships that I need? Going
Yep.
belonging piece when you're at work, and just understanding what that means for you. Can you tell me about a time where you had to shift your focus from what you were losing to what you were gaining by letting go of certain aspects of your life? Wait, did I say that?
No, I've changed things that I've done. And I guess that, what I just shared is a good example of letting go. I mean, early in my career, I owned a company with my former boss. We started a company together when I was 25 years old. And I was trying to buy him out at some point, and I woke up
Mhm.
one day, and sometimes I think if you just let yourself reflect, whether you're being
Powerful.
quiet, which
You
is
have to.
almost impossible for me to do, to be calm and calm my mind. But somehow, when I was like 26 or 27, I woke up one morning and I said, you know what? I shouldn't buy him out. He should buy me out. It's time to go.
Great.
And I just came to him and I said, I'm out. I'm going to go find something new. And believe it or not, that was probably one of the best decisions I ever made, because I ended up joining a company at that time I was in my 20s, of
Mm.
all women CPA MBAs, and they're still some of my closest friends today. It was probably one of the best companies and cultures I've ever been a part of, really until today. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I just hadn't picked my head up, realized like it's time to go. It's time to move on from this little venture that I did. I actually received the check for my shares of the company on my wedding day from my oldest friend and attorney. So I let go, and it was a fantastic decision.
I mean, as I listen to you, and just the risks and the confidence and the boldness, I definitely want to just advise people to hear this and see why you're also a great career coach, because you definitely are an example and a role model of what it means to be empowered by self in your beliefs, and to move from that, to start with,
Yes.
as
I,
your
I hope, I wish every woman felt that way, and they
yeah.
don't,
No, they don't. Oh, we
but a
need
lot of men do.
another fireside chat with that, Amy. I feel like give us a top 10. It's so good. My last question for you is, what's a small everyday action that you do to affirm your sense of identity and authenticity?
I have a very hard time being calm and quiet and reflective. I'm like a go, go, do, do kind of person all the time.
Uh-huh.
And I try in the morning to wake up early. I love coffee. I have like a fancy coffee machine. So I have like a little ritual of coffee to myself, a little reading, maybe catching up with my children. My daughter lives in Amsterdam, so she's 7 hours ahead. So I like to,
That's nice.
connect with her
Mhm.
early in the morning because it's in the afternoon with her. And then, sometimes I do, I exercise by myself at home and do yoga. And I pretend that the person on the screen is my friend and that they are cheering me on, even though I know it's a recording. So I have a little game with myself about the different workout partners I have, and that they're like very funny.
Is this through Peloton or something else?
It's called Fit On. It's an app called Fit On, and
Okay.
I feel like I know the people, and like when I work out with them, they're my friends. It's a game in order to just keep working
It
out.
motivates you, right?
It motivates me, exactly.
I think that's another thing that people are going to be surprised to know, that Amy has friends with the people from Fit On. Pretend.
Who obviously don't know me, but it's an app on my phone, but it does get me through some mornings. So,
That's great. And when you're reading, is there a particular thing that you read that you tap into in the morning?
well, it's funny because I joke that I could never be in a book club because I have such a hard time with like getting through an actual book. But I'm really into podcasts, so maybe I'm listening and not reading as much.
Mm. And you're probably getting, as you say that, again, just how we reimagine things. Because I don't honestly finish a lot of my books too, but I always feel like what I got from it has changed and transformed me somehow. So maybe, as opposed to focusing on getting to the end of the story, are we getting what we need
I
from?
love that.
story.
exactly. And right now I'm listening to, because I really need a distraction, I'm listening to Barbara Streisand's book on tape, which is fun for a variety of reasons if you're interested in her and her career, because she basically goes off script all the time in the book, in the audio version. I know she does, because there's no way that in the book, she wrote down, "Oi, you should see how much I ate." Um, I'm guessing that's riffing.
That ties back to, I think, a common thread as I'm listening to you and your stories and who's inspired you, just the power of being authentic in yourself in the moment. So even if you're supposed to be following a script for an audiobook, just saying
Yeah,
what
I still.
you said in that moment, right?
Well, and I should end with, I am really lucky because I have probably one of the best husbands and business partners of anybody I know. And I could not do any of it without him. He's an incredibly evolved man, and I'm a lot sometimes, and he can handle it. And so I do think that finding the right partner in life is one of the most important decisions that you can make.
hmm Right partner, right friends, right community. I mean, just who you surround yourself with. It
Yeah,
matters. Be
it
intentional
matters.
about that and make sure they're intentional about you.
I love that.
This was great, Amy. I loved getting behind your bio and hearing all these things. I have to think about what it all delighted me. I think, though, what tickled me the most is that you have pretend friends from Fit On. So when I see
Mm.
you, I'm going to ask,
Download the app and you'll get to know my
I'll get
my
some friends.
my friends.
I get
Yeah.
to know your friends. That's great.
I have bonded over this with other people who are like, Vetus is a hot yoga teacher, isn't he? And I'm
Oh,
like,
okay.
he is pretty inspiring.
So I could also join in the conversation because everybody, that makes perfect sense. Okay. I might
Gotcha.
have to think about that because I get up early and I work out too, but I'm still very old school. I do DVDs, Amy.
That's okay.
It
I
is a
mean,
to get
there's
the job
Jane
done.
Fonda. Yeah.
I haven't gone back that far, but I do have some more that are probably like early 2000s. But yes, I love my DVDs. They're fun. They get the job done. So
That's right. Well,
yeah.
thank you, Kalila.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you so much for taking time to let us get behind your bio.